So thank you so much, Yasin, for the introduction. I'm really excited to meet you guys and talk about my journey in tech. So let's go. My name is Hyunbin Lee, and today we're going to go over my background. We're going to go over how do I prepare for interviews, and we're going to go over some advice from me to you as a fellow student. So the first thing is about me. My name is Hyunbin Lee, and I'm a sophomore at Northwestern University. I'm going to be joining Etsy this summer as a software engineering intern after passing my interviews at Amazon and Etsy. And something I want you guys to know is that I didn't write my first line of code until I went to college. I wanted to be a fashion designer last year, and I took the first introductory Python course at Carnegie Mellon, which was my original college. And I decided I really liked it, and I was kind of good at it. And I made a cool project with a cooking game that one opportunity led to another, kind of one project to another, research opportunity to internships. And eventually I landed some cool offers this year. So that's a little bit about my journey. Outside of coding, I like fashion modeling. This is me on the runway last year. I'm also building a group of people helping each other and mentoring each other with my friends called the Mambolo group. And so I suggest as well, when you make it, you should pass it on forward as well. And finally, I'm a cat dad. So let's go on to the meaty part of this presentation, which is how do we prepare for interviews? The first step is preparing, and the second step is the patterns, and the third step is practicing what you learned. So first, how do we prepare? Well, the first thing is your resume. And I suggest that your resume is clean and readable, and you want to use Jake's resume template because ideally the recruiter should only spend 60 seconds reading your resume and knowing exactly what you did and who you are. So I recommend this template. And the next is doing leak code. And I'm sure a lot of you know what leak code is, and you guys are currently going through leak code grind. But I recommend Grind 75 from the Tech Interview Handbook because it provides a broad overview of the types of patterns that you need and the different types of problems that you'll solve. And personally, for my interviews, for passing them, it was enough for me. So the next step is networking, and I feel like this is not touched upon as much, but you want to have a support system of friends and peers who you guys can help each other out and maybe even solve some leak code problems together. And I found most of my network through LinkedIn, Discord groups, and you're in this really awesome community here called Headstarter. So definitely take advantage of that as well. Now let's move on to patterns. Focus on patterns is really important because there are so many leak code questions you can solve. You don't want to memorize the answers to all of them. So I recommend following the leak code roadmap because it teaches you to apply different patterns to different situations. For example, it's similar to cooking in a way where you don't want to use a frying pan to slice bread. At the same time, you don't want to use a spoon to fry an egg. And in the same way, we can think of leak code kind of like applying the right tool to the right problem. For example, when you get a problem, you might want to use sliding window, or you might want to use dynamic programming. And it's up to you to know the patterns. And there's 12 different patterns on the Headstarter platform that you can practice with. But ideally, you want to know what pattern to apply. Now you want to practice these patterns. I recommend reaching out to friends and peers to interview each other, but also you can interview with randoms online through platforms like Interviewing.io and Pram. And this really sets you up for success because you don't just want to leak code, but you also want to practice how you communicate during the interview. And this provides a really good situation to do so. And the next step is to keep a journal of these patterns that you practice. And personally, I use Notion. When I solve problems, I like to log them here. And finally, some advice. I didn't do 1,000 leak code and I wasn't a coding genius. I've only been coding for about a year, but I believe I got to where I am because I used my network, I was resourceful, and I prepared well. So just believe in yourself and never stop learning. I know you're sending lots of applications and grinding really hard, but just hang in there and you got it. So good luck.
Yay. That's what's up. I know, guys, I think Hyunbin had a really good presentation. Like, I think this is a very heartfelt presentation. When he said he pays it forward, he definitely paid it forward here. I know he's been working on it really hard because I know he messaged me like 50, like a lot of times, like, is everything correct? Did I get it right? Right. And I was like, yeah, everything looks good. Everything looks good. Someone here was like, yo, Yasin was really mad. He's talking about interviewing the IO or prep. I'm not mad. Like, Hester is very new. Like those are the platforms that exist. So that's what you got to use. Hyunbin, want to talk about some of the conversations me and you had. So what happened right before the interview? Like, what are some of the things I told you that
Yeah.
may or may not have been helpful? You want to just share that with the
For
audience?
sure. Yeah, and I think this is a really good example of just using your network. Don't be afraid to reach out to people, especially because they'll be down to help you as well. Amazing people like Yasin that I've met. Um, I recommend, so what happened was that like before my first technical interview, which was with Amazon, I reached out to Yasin saying, "Hey, I'm really nervous about this. I've been grinding lead code, but I don't really know what a technical interview is like." And so he hopped on a call with me and he told me, "Look, you don't just want to grind lead code. You A valedictorian does not just practice their speech to themselves in front of the mirror. They go out there and they ask people to practice in front of, and that's exactly what you should do. You should mock interview as much as you can, and that really helped me. And so I did like 10 mock interviews in the 2 weeks up to my interview, and I feel like that really helped me drive my communication skills up, and I felt a lot more prepared. And so I think that was a really good call to make.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember. There's one very specific point I told you how you've been, which was I said you're gonna talk to the Amazon engineers. Don't go in there as a deer in the headlights. Go understand
Right.
what new technologies Amazon are releasing. Specifically, I told you to look up Bedrock. I told you to look
Yes.
what team the person interviewing you is in, and then really familiarize yourself with any releases they have on like any AWS news or any expos and try to relate to them, right? So that when you're on a
Yep.
conversation with the person who's doing your technical interview, like it's as if you're their colleague and you know what's going on, right? And so
Yep.
it's not just a kind of did your homework there anyways. Look, guys, let's have one question for Hayun Bin. Anyone got one question? Please drop in the chat. Okay, we got someone right here. So what about projects? How did your resume get selected? Hayun Bin, what do you think makes your resume like stand out?
For sure. So let me just go back to the slide right here. So you want to use Jake's resume template, which covers your experiences and your projects. And basically, this helps you kind of get through the screening. As for the actual writing itself on the resume, I recommend you follow an XYZ template. So I did X, and I did this using Y techniques or Y, I guess, like technologies. And then Z is for the quantification. For example, I know Yasin told me you want to log how many hours you spent on a project, or maybe you want to log, for example, what impact you made in the project. But this should be in the form of some kind of number. So definitely follow the XYZ template, and that should really help you get through the resume screening. As for what projects I did, I really just tried to use the technologies I was interested in using. For example, the OpenAI API. So I remember making a chatbot that helped people find clubs at my school. Or I also reached out to a nonprofit to make a website for them, a full stack website in my freshman year, and that really helped me also in projects.
Very cool, very cool. Guys, can we show some love for Hayun Bin? Like just drop in the chat, you know. Um, yeah. What did you like about what he said? What was the most impactful thing that you like what he said? Hayun Bin, you see the chat?
Let me see. I really enjoyed the networking portion. Yeah, I think that's very important. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. How many internship applications did you send out? I think that's like too many to count. Definitely in the hundreds, like around 400 for sure.